Hello boys and girls, welcome to BenchART. I'm for Classic, and for today what I do have in it is Ninja Gaiden's free Razor's Edge. This game is developed by Team Ninja and also Koei Tecmo, and these guys are using their in-house engine, obviously revamped compared to the Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, so it's more demanding than the predecessors. Obviously, this is kind of a logic thing, but yeah. Well, it does suffer from the same issues as the predecessor, so you don't have graphical options. The only thing you can change it is the resolution, and it's not available on a launcher or something. But I will explain to you what you can expect. So at 720p, 35% of the time it was lower than 60, 900p, 60% of the time it was lower than 60 FPS, and 1080p, well, you know the drill. The majority of it was below 60 frames per second. So this is kind of a... I do recommend two types of choices, alright, in here. If you want to have as much frame rate as possible and to be as close as possible as 60 frames per second, my recommendation is for you to stick up with 720p. But if you want to lock your game to 30 frames per second and you don't mind to be more close to 30 than 60, you should play at 1080p. It's your choice, and just like the predecessor games, you can't select settings, graphical settings or keyboard settings or stuff like that, because this game doesn't have any PC specific setting. The only way you have to change resolution, you have two different ways. It is to go to the Steam options of the game, and Steam properties of the game, and on the launch options you can select between 720p, 1080p or 4K. Or alternatively you can change your Windows resolution, and if you do so before starting the game will launch to in its resolution that you have. Alright, but my recommendation is for you to use the Steam properties and the launch parameters of the game and change it to 720p and enjoy the game being as much close as possible to 720p. The game's performance, it is pretty good, despite it is not a locked 60 frames per second. At 720p you keep the majority of the time locked to 60, so it is good, and the drops are usually appear when you have tons of explosions or smoke, or when you perform special attacks where a lot of effects kick in into the screen. When this stuff happens, you can expect the game to drop below 60 frames per second. Also cutscenes, because of the effects like depth of field and stuff like that, you can expect the game to drop from 60, but the game it is super playable. I haven't found any issues with the game regarding stability or stuff like, or even bugs that usually appears with Intel GPUs. No bugs whatsoever. Everything just works perfectly fine. The only downside is really not having graphical settings for you to choose from. Also, I think this is way worse for many people. I think this game doesn't support keyboard and mouse. I only tried with gamepad, but I have seen some warnings that you should have a gamepad for this game, or that you need a gamepad to play this game. So keyboard and mouse probably won't be working in this game. So my recommendation is, if you have a gamepad, you can play the game just fine. If you have an Xbox One gamepad, you can play the game perfectly fine. But if you have a keyboard and mouse, probably you won't be having as much luck. Alright, that's the thing that you should know about it. Apart from the fact that this is a super lazy port regarding not having PC options, not having keyboard and mouse, this is super lazy. Apart from that, the game it is just perfection when it comes to performance and optimization and graphics for its age. I think it's awesome. Alright, so now let's talk a little bit about the game. So this game, it feels different. Alright, it feels like it doesn't belong to the same universe. Well, it does, but it seems more focused into the action and some kitty. So it seems to be more focused into the generations of today that want more adrenaline and stuff going on than the type of classic gameplay that you get from the first game, for example, from the Ninja Gaiden Sigma one. And I'm checking the scores of the game and some of the reviews, and people have been having some mixed bags about this third game. This is not the original third game. The original third game, it was a disaster. It had one of the worst reviews ever, with tons of complaints. And so this is the Razor's Edge. The Razor's Edge, it is kind of a remake of the third game, but done right. Now, the reasons why this game doesn't score as much as the first game and the second one, I believe it's probably because it was not its initial release, because some people are really satisfied with the game. For me, I wasn't really so keen about that. In my opinion, I don't like this first scenario. The combat feels much more action focused than the first game that feels more of a Souls-like game, honestly. And so for that same reason, I wasn't able to capture the same feeling as the first game and the second game. Because despite the second game, it starts to be more closer to free than the first one. The second game still retains some of the elements of the first game, and I don't really feel like that in this game. I'm kind of feeling it a little bit weird, alright? I'm not saying that the game it is worse than the second game or the first one. Some people probably will consider this third game the best one ever from the series, but for me it just feels too different, too action focused, and you know, it feels less focused into tactics, into a combat system, and feels more like a button mashing and a very fast combat as usual that Ninja Gaiden brings, and that's just about it. But that's just simply my opinion. As for the performance, we already discussed that. It is excellent, as you know. So, guys, thank you a lot for watching. Hope you keep enjoying the rest of the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye. You're mine.